Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. How you doing, Senator?
Great. It's 6:55 Mountain Daylight Time. How the day's over with, It's good. It's
What time did you wake up?
harvest season in North Central. I wake up at 5. Harvest season in North Central Montana. Last week we had days above 100, got up to 110 with the wind blowing. Jesus, it was hot. But yesterday, I think our high was like 70 degrees. So what a difference a day can make. But
Yeah.
people are harvesting like crazy, which is kind of cool to watch the big lawnmowers bring in the crops. So it's good.
Do you have your coffee ready?
Yeah, right here. I just got a bland cup. I don't have one of yours. Okay.
But is there anything spicy inside of the coffee cup?
I don't drink coffee any other way.
Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure we're all on track.
Irish cream is just a staple of life. I mean,
That's right.
you get that before you get your ham and eggs in the morning. I mean, that's just the way it is.
That's right. Okay, so we have a guest that we're going to get to a little in just a few minutes here. He's somebody who's taught me so much about wildfire throughout my career, and he's the retired superintendent of the Flathead Hotshots, which is one of the most elite firefighting teams in the entire country. And I was following all the fires that were going down in Spokane, still going down, and really just across the Pacific Northwest over the weekend. And my heart is breaking for them. And I was thinking about it last night with all of the just chaos happening everywhere and now these fires. I just thought we should really have this larger conversation about the fires themselves and the politics around them. So we're going to have that conversation in just a minute.
It is a big deal because it's a large line item in forest management. How much money goes to fighting fires versus managing a forest. Always was the entire time I was in the United States Senate, and for that matter, in the Montana legislature. So it's very timely to have this conversation. Maritza, good job.
Hey, thanks, Senator. That's a rare kudos from you. Uh,
Yeah,
you trying to be nice today?
I am. I am
Okay. All
turning
right.
over, turning
We'll see
over.
we'll see how long that lasts. Few other quick headlines, though. I wanted to talk about with you, Senator. It seems that Todd Blanche met whatever Senators Cornyn and Tillis needed to okay his nomination for Attorney General. Last week, they said they wouldn't vote him out of committee because of their concerns over that $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. Well, he put in writing that he would end that fund, but not included in the demands the sweeping audit immunity for the president and his sons and the Trump organization. So there are new parameters around it, with Todd Blanche saying that immunity doesn't protect the president from future tax filings, but it applies retroactively. But here's kind of the big caveat on all of this is that Blanche may have rescinded the deal for the anti-weaponization fund, but Trump didn't sign off on it. He didn't even look at it. And it's supposed to be signed by all parties. So that leaves the door open for this to be revived later. What do you think?
And you wonder why we have no king's rallies. The president wonders why he's called a king. This is the kind of crap where you're above the law, and regardless what Congress does or what the Department of Justice, who used to be people's attorney but now is the president's attorney, just does what he wants. There is no reason whatsoever for this $1.76 billion weaponization fund. There is no reason that the president and his family and the Trump organization should be set aside for audit immunity, and I do believe it applies to tax filings. But nonetheless, the king just thinks that, as long as everybody's working for him, everybody's going to be fine. And by the way, that's true in the elections. It's true in life. It's true in everything. He doesn't pay his bills to people he doesn't like. He gets rid of people in his organization that disagree with him, and quite honestly, he makes sure that he does his best to defeat people who don't vote 100% with him. This is why people are pissed off, and it continues to go on. And I trust Todd Blanche about as far as I could throw him, and I don't think I could throw him very far.
You're pretty strong.
Yeah, but I took a shower last night, so that eliminated a lot of that strong smell. So
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Well, yeah, we're kind of watching. The talk about this is what Senators Cornyn and Tillis, like what their actual calculus was, because they're not coming back. They've all. I mean, Senator Cornyn's already been primaried, and Senator
yeah,
Tillis is not running for reelection. So,
they can actually do the right thing and sleep well at night. So hope they continue to do it.
well, I do also want to mention that not included in this conversation are all of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and his abuses,
Yeah,
who went before the Senate during these confirmation hearings, who met with senators behind the scenes to oppose this nomination, and they're not even mentioned in the final calculus here.
yeah. The other thing I'd like to throw out, not in all the cases, but a fair number of cases, I think Tillis and Cornyn are the front men taking the lead for a lot of folks behind that know that Blanche is a waste of time. And
Ah,
but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to draw the wrath of the president and the MAGA group. And so they're sitting back and letting Tillis and Cornyn do it. I can say with almost certainty that is a fact. Not with all of them. I mean, you've got the old football coach that does everything the president asks him to do, but you got others in there that do still have a mind, even though sometimes you wonder. And they just let them go. Let them do let Tillis and Cornyn do it. Let them take the the blame. But they don't like Blanche either. Blanche is a waste of time, quite frankly. He's not fit for the job, just like the Secretary of Defense isn't fit for the job, just like most of the people in this cabinet aren't fit for the job. Robert F. Kennedy the third, all those folks. I mean, they're um, just take a look at what's going on in the different areas. Iran war, what's going on with healthcare. The list
yeah.
goes on, and Blanche is right there with him. He's not fit for the job, and they know it. By the way, the Republicans in the Senate, the majority of them know it.
Okay, I do want to talk about this because this is something, of course, we've been tracking related to ICE and detentions. But there's a second detainee that has died after being held at Delaney Hall ICE detention in New Jersey. Edwin Lopez Cornejo, who's 41 years old, died at a hospital after a medical emergency happened. Now, his mother says that he had been prescribed meds for diabetes, high blood pressure, and seizures, and she didn't believe he was getting his medications for the time he was detained for 6 weeks. So we're tracking that, and of course, I expect a lot more attention on that and an investigation into that.
It's sad because this is a life. I question very much whether this person was one of the worst of the worst and was out committing crimes. He was another one of those ones that are here legally and got detained. And what was his punishment? Death. Um,
Yeah,
it's it's just crazy.
we'll continue to follow up on that. Okay, so with that, I do want to talk about Spokane, Washington. I want to get everyone up to speed here. And as we're having this conversation, good morning to everybody who's hopping on with us. I know it's early, guys. We can blame John Tester for this one. Uh, I want to get everyone up to speed about what has happened in Spokane. First off, investigators yesterday arrested a suspected arsonist connected to this Old Trails fire in Spokane. It's a huge development in the story. The Old Trails fire is one of three burning in what's called the Spokane Complex. Um, More than 700 homes have been destroyed. That number could be more than 1,000, though. They're still kind of assessing. And the Spokane complex of fires, made up of three fires, not contained at all. It burned through, I mean, last I checked, I was going to check this morning and I forgot to do that right before, but it was more than 8,000 acres when I checked yesterday, last night. 65,000 people have been evacuated from their homes. No deaths reported, thankfully, but more than 10,000 other buildings are considered at risk. So here's the deal. This region, the Pacific Northwest, and really across the West, we are up against one of the worst fire seasons that we've seen in decades because of many factors, including climate change, so many more. We want to get into it with a subject matter expert. Anything you want to say before I bring him on, Senator?
I think that's a very nice segue. Yeah, indeed. And I would just say my heart goes out to the folks out there that have lost everything in these fires.
Yeah.
It's got to be horrible for them.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to bring in Shawn so we can talk about the nuts and bolts of fire.
All right, let's bring him in. So, this is Shawn Borgen, retired superintendent of the Flathead Hotshots. We call him Borg around here. Thanks for being with us this morning, Borg.
Nah, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
How long you been called Borg? That's what I want to know. Just something Lisa just dreamt up, or is this something from grade school?
Nah, all the way back to high school football.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
My brother was my it and so I did a full career with the Forest Service, and
yeah.
I have a brother that's 2 years younger than me. His name is Darren, and we both work on the same forest as youngsters. So early in our career, especially like communicating with dispatch or over the radio, it got a little confusing for people, and
Oh,
we would take advantage of that. You know, we'd be like, Borgen, Borgen. Yeah, go ahead, Borgen. Yeah, Borgen, we got this thing over here. Borgen respond, like and
yeah.
just, so it evolved to where we kind of developed our own identities and people just started referring to me as Borg largely and it stuck.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I love how you come out with the really hard hitting questions right off the bat, Senator.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to talk about what they called me, in grade school, high school, because those,
Do you want me to tell everybody what they called you? I know.
no, just leave it be. Let's talk about fire. Much more
Yeah.
fun.
Before
All
we get
right.
going, you guys were all proud of your coffee. I don't drink coffee, but a little shot
Oh,
Oh,
to the one and only.
all right.
5 hour energy
The
drink. Is
the
that
one that
something you
the one that keeps you going in the real long shifts. So
That,
so is
that's
that
the only
something you learned on the fires? That's what you would
Oh
do?
yeah. Yeah, that's the only way to get the day started. And you hit hour 14 and you get the call, hey, we need you to come over here and burn Division Zulu or whatever. And you're like, okay, it's gonna be a 24-hour shift.
Oh my gosh, 5 hour energy. I've never actually had one of those.
so I've never had one of them either. So my question for you, before we get into the real issue of fire, is you're working a 24-hour shift. I'm going to tell you, I've been on a tractor, which doesn't require a lot of thought, just kind of basically making sure nothing blows up. And your head starts to feel like rubber, and you can't really think very well, truthfully. That little shot of giddy up, go? Does that
It
like keep you
it
going?
it it, it helped me, but so the longest I was ever up was 3 days. And I can tell you once you get out to day two and a half, I you start seeing things.
3 days?
Now,
Yeah, that's 72 hours for the journalist crowd.
Thanks,
So,
Senator. Thanks for spelling that out. All right, so let's get down to it. We're gonna have some like specific conversations about Spokane, but also just kind of some broader conversations for folks in the chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in there. Kareen says that fires are so important for us in the West, and yes, that's right. They are. They impact us every single year, and sometimes it used to be that would just impact us in the summer. And in the last few years, we've seen horrific fires happen in the dead of winter, and this is kind of the new normal. So Borg, more than 5 million acres have burned so far this year. That's how many acres burned in all of last year. And we're only at the start of August. So right now, as we look at this, and I'm doing the math, I think we're over 10,000 acres for that Spokane complex. I just checked the infrared maps. Um, what are the biggest takeaways for you right now? Like as you kind of assess what we're seeing and what the public across the country needs to really be focusing on as we see yet another massive devastating fire take out an entire neighborhood, and we know it's not the first, and we know it won't be the last.
yeah. So first of all, we're coming into what, like in the industry, we call it Dirty August. And historically, in the Northern Rockies, which is Montana, North Idaho, parts of South Dakota, North Dakota, and then the Pacific Northwest, which we usually are just now hitting fire season, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is we're just getting going. This year, it's been going. Like, there's a lot of fire on the ground, and you're talking 3 million acres on fire everywhere north of at least 3 million acres on fire everywhere north of Salt Lake City-ish. That's a lot of fire on the ground, and, historically, as we get into the latter parts of August, especially September, that's when we really actually start getting our bigger wind events. So with this much fire on the ground, I think people just need to understand, be prepared, be ready to move, because that fire in Spokane, that's a bummer, and it's early for that kind of situation this up in this neck of the woods.
So, Sean, what does preparation include? I mean, if your house isn't burnt to the ground by now, you've got to be paying attention to those people who did lose their house, whether it's Spokane or somewhere else.
Yeah.
What I know you should get rid of your wooden shakes and put on steel roofs and all that kind of thing. But what else what else can you do?
I think you think of it in stages. Like the immediate is have a go bag ready to go with the stuff that's truly important to you in case there's that oh crap moment that catches you by surprise, right? So if you live anywhere in the urban interface is what we call it, where you could be caught by surprise, whether it was a lightning strike or whether it was an arsonist or whether it was, aircraft incident near you. And as you get that really volatile combustive situation that happens, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of there. And I think that's just good advice for anybody that, whether you're in a flood zone or a fire prone zone or whatever,
Mhm.
you need to have that stuff backed up and ready to go. Then, as a secondary tier, you need to, if you're in that area, you need to harden your home, right? Make it secure at best you can. Because when those events happen, as a firefighter, and I mean, I lived it lots of times. Sadly, you got to triage those situations when you're going home to home, and if frankly, if the homeowner hasn't done their diligence, and there's an expectation that in moments, um, we need to try to resolve that as firefighters. We can't.
Yeah.
In those instances, you have to triage it. So we'll go home to home and like we'll tackle the ones we think we can, but the ones that you can't, like, what do you do, right? Well, you can't get bogged down on one to sacrifice the many. You can't.
I wanna say something too here because there's this, like, haunting interview that I did with Borg many years ago, because people might be listening to this in New Jersey or down in Mississippi or anywhere that's not considered the West and say, "Well, this doesn't apply to me. I don't need to worry about this." And there is this haunting interview that I did with you, Borg, where you said, "Everywhere will burn."
The
Everywhere will burn, especially as these, conditions get worse and more extreme. So, what would you say to people who say, "Well, I don't need to worry about that. I live out here."
well, I'll say it again. The surface of the earth, for the most part, is covered in hairy fuel of various sizes and thicknesses, and it will all burn regardless of where you live. And give enough time and dry climate, which can hit anywhere. And I have fought fire in almost every state, border to border, coast to coast. If you live in and around anything from grass up through trees, it can burn. So no one is immune to it.
I
Anyway,
wanna show this video too. So a couple winters ago, this horrific fire called the Marshall Fire tore through Louisville, Colorado, and it was in winter, and they had freak winds, 70 to 100-mile-per-hour gusts. And I went to the scene of this fire about 6 months afterward. We were doing a homeowner's insurance story, and it was just shocking to see because, yeah, there was some grass around it, but it was mostly like a concrete suburb. I mean, there were, like, concrete box stores around this neighborhood. There were not, like, old growth trees. They were, like, new little baby trees planted for this newer subdivision, and so I'm gonna put some videos up on the screen. So this first video was taken by one of the homeowners who I interviewed, and this was taken at 3:47 in the afternoon on December 30th. So take a look at this video. I'm sorry for people listening, but you can see this home not fire has not touched it yet. This is the same home 6 minutes later. It's fully engulfed. fully engulfed home, and that is how fast this stuff can move. So when you see these entire neighborhoods wiped out, that is how fast this can move, and that is why we need to take this so seriously.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening there is, I mean, first of all, if you look out and you might see grass this high, 2, 3 inches high. It could be chewed down. You could even have livestock, but I've seen really short grass. If it's dry, throw 3 to 5 foot flame lengths. So it, if the wind's blowing, and you get one glowing blade of grass that comes off and lands in the wrong spot. And mind you, when these things are ripping like that, they're throwing hundreds of thousands of little embers, little glowing blades of grass or needles or whatever, and it lands in the wrong spot and you get one house going, depending on which way the wind is blowing, that house ignites the next house, ignites the next house. And houses are just as precious as they are to all of us. It's just giant it's fuel. Everything is fuel. And once a house gets going, it's throwing some serious heat, right? And then they
Mhm.
really throw a lot of embers. So that's why you see them jump, like when you see the pictures, like what happened in Spokane. You'll see swaths where once one gets going, then it gets two going, then it gets four going, then it gets six going, and whichever way that wind is blowing, whatever's in that swath. And what's interesting is, like, you'll see a bunch of them burn and then one will get missed. You know,
Yeah,
it's, that stuff's always astonishing. But it is so difficult to fathom how the wind current is moving. There could be just a slight terrain break, or maybe they just did a good job of clearing the needles out of their gutters, or
right.
the embers that hit just didn't take. Um, so that stuff's always really interesting. But yeah, I mean, and when houses throw a lot of BTUs, they're hot. So if they're in close enough proximity, they're gonna ignite each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been superintendent would indicate you've been fighting fires more than a couple of weeks. How many years you been fighting fires?
Uh well, I did 30 years just on the hotshot crew, plus a couple other years doing some district kind of fire engine, uh, dabbled with the helicopters, with some
Smoke
details.
jumper.
Couple years as a smoke jumper.
Basically, from the early to mid '90s, you started.
Yeah, I started in 1995. Not actually with the state of Texas. Actually, it was 93, but kind of more on the pro side of it in 95.
Okay, so 30 years is quite a while. What
Yeah,
what
it's a
what have you
count.
what have you
I
seen?
I
What have
prefer to think of it in instead of years, shifts assigned, which I'm over 3,000 shifts. So you can do the math on how
Wow.
much that's assigned.
that's a bunch. That's
That's a
that's
lot.
more than I got fingers. But at any rate, what have you seen changed in the last 3,000 shifts?
I mean, the whole notion of climate change is a rabbit hole, and you can go down that with whatever philosophy you want. What I will tell you is, from the time I started to today sitting here before you, the situation is different. Our fires, without question, are starting earlier in the year. We're getting large fires, more initial attack fires earlier in the year than we did when I started, and they are lasting far longer into the year than when I started. And then with those, the fires are for sure burning more volatile, getting bigger, faster than incrementally every year up to now. We have more black acres on the American landscape any given year now than we did when I started. Now, that's 30 years in the grand scale of thousands of years. Is that normal? Maybe not.
I think not with the regularity that we're seeing, and those are the graphs that I've been looking at, not with the regularity we've been seeing.
Well, I think the other point is that we can go back 1,000 years. I didn't actually live 1,000 years ago, and
Yeah.
I might have. I didn't live 1,000 years ago. I mean, we are where we are today.
Today, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And,
And
so we have to deal with what we have,
that's right.
and it is different, you know,
Yeah.
so, like,
So
what done historically sort of is irrelevant because that, you know, it's all our lives in the world that is affected now, so, like, how do we deal with it? You know, there's a lot of ways to go about that.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my brother the other day. We had smoke so intense here 48 hours ago. You could hardly see a mile. And I live in north central Montana. Okay. And I was talking to my brother, as kids, we don't I mean, I just don't remember smoke
No,
being an
no,
issue.
no, no, you know, again, I mentioned, you know, high school football earlier, but, like, 2 days in August end of August, we weren't I mean, maybe you got a little bit of smoke, you weren't choking on it. I live in the Flathead Valley, and we had literally yesterday or 2 days ago, it was a half a mile visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fog, you know, so I have no recollection of any of that as a kid. That is and that's common now, that's getting to be how summers are anymore, at least
Yeah.
west.
so Borg, I want to ask you kind of just about policy changes because, you know, we know as administrations come in and go out that we see different policies.
Works for
Um,
me.
Yeah, I know you have, and so right now, like we should be focused on the immediate damage and the immediate need in Spokane, absolutely. But more broadly, what do we need to be thinking about and talking about when it comes to policy? We know there were a bunch of staffing cuts, funding cuts, you know, earlier this year with the Forest Service. We know there was a consolidation into like this one agency called the U.S. Wildland Fire Service. Like, how is this all playing out on the ground for crews like the one you used to be on?
I'm so far effects on the ground in terms of, operational capacity don't seem to be super impacted. Let me back up. Like within the Forest Service, specifically who I worked for, fire was not necessarily impacted outside of kind of seeing and living through a lot of the cuts and people losing their jobs, right? Because when you all work, you know, when you work in a big company, you just know lots of different people.
Yeah.
But fire was, I'm not going to say totally immune. There was a little bit of streamlining, but most of that streamlining wasn't on the ground. It was more on, you know, like say at a regional and Washington level. And so one side, that I think some of that's been overdue a little bit. Just if we're going to be serious about, you know, changing fire condition, like we just talked about, then we also have to be serious about a changing organization that makes more sense to adapt to that. Okay. On the flip side, just like a large wildfire, in a world where the expectation is immediate gratification, immediate satisfaction, things to happen quickly, you do not turn an aircraft carrier on a dime.
Right.
Okay. And we're talking about essentially the largest fire department in the world. So that some of what I would categorize as the issues are little things that fall through the cracks that nobody thinks about how this is going to go or how that's going to go because it is such a huge organization. Anytime you start making sweeping changes like that, a few things are going to be a little clunky.
What are you laughing at, Senator? What happened?
And my desk just fell apart, but that's okay. It's
Really? Like it just fell apart on your lap?
literally hit my foot, the whole keyboard. I'm surprised I'm still on the show. But at any rate, um, as you look at the firefighters, the hotshot groups, the folks that are on the ground, the folks that are flying airplanes, all that stuff,
Yeah.
where's money being wasted in fighting fires?
Oh.
It's a good
Hang
question.
on, I gotta grab my keyboard here.
Yeah.
Waiting for his phone to ring next. Oh
That's
my gosh.
yeah, so keep go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, okay, let me say this. So in terms of like guys like myself, where I was a, you know, a superintendent, I was a program leader. I think at that level, at a district or unit kind of fire level, I think, like I had more or less control of my budget. So I was allocated X amount of dollars per year. I was responsible for making sure that essentially every penny was accounted for, and that the purchases were appropriate. And if that, and I, it, there were rumors, right, of people out there that if that wasn't done appropriately, you were personally held accountable, like professionally, like you either lost your job or got moved into something that with far less accountability. I think where stuff gets weird with the money is the side of it, that the actual allocation part, right? So looking back, I would budget out what I figured I needed, and then I would get, a shortfall of that. And then we'd be told, well, okay, we're gonna make sure you're on fire X amount of days or whatever, and that's gonna like kind of make up for the shortfall. How those numbers were made right well above any of the
Mm.
guys like me, I don't know. That's where the voodoo happens. So really as like, okay, was it crooked or not? I don't know. I can't say yes. I can't say no. Um, I think, or at least I have to have faith that the people making those decisions were also trying to make the numbers add up in a world where, uh, there's always going to be a shortfall, right? Because how do you predict how much money you're going to spend on something that may or may not happen?
Right, right.
There are some things you can definitely predict, but then there's others you can't. And so, like, when you start hitting these big fires like this and you budgeted X and now you're gonna have to spend Y, how and where do you find that money? Well, you borrow from the years that are to come. Maybe you had some left over from the years that have gone by. How though how those mechanisms work, I was never really exposed to that, but,
And that's really kind of the thing that I think people are saying about when we see thousands of jobs cut, right, from the Forest Service is like, well, we see these big anomalous fire years that are no longer anomalous, and how can we afford to cut staff? And that's the concern from people as they see that, especially people who live, we live in this fire world every year where other places like we saw the smoke kind of go into the East Coast and move into the East Coast, and they're just not used to it like we're used to it.
yeah, this gets back to wildfire is now, and I suspect until we get a radical shift in our climate, it will continue to ramp up and affect every human living in America. So, to me, one of the greatest issues we're up against is our own messaging. So we we can fight wildfire, but I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna ask you guys something. So, like, Maritza, did you ever hear of the wet shots?
Nope.
You've heard of the hot shots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you never heard of the wet shots?
No.
Yeah, because they don't exist. Okay, we don't line a crew of 25 dudes up in front on a beach, right, with big sheets of plywood and like, here, fight this hurricane. Okay, we don't. What you do is you pick up the pieces after the hurricane blows through. All right. But yet in fire, there's this greater understanding that we're going to fight the fire and we're going to defeat the fire, like it's a human enemy. That's not the case. Like, we do the best we can with the conditions we have in front of us, but largely we go at it where we can, or we're not going to die. Like,
Right.
it's already dangerous enough being out in that environment after it's burned. It's arguably the most dangerous work environment known to man. I mean, you want to throw around, you know, intense terms like apocalyptic. That's what it is, man. Like, the entire thing is just burned, and things are rolling, things are falling. It's just it's gnarly. So in general, what I'm saying is, like, as Americans, we serve the taxpayers, and the pay for that, and it's not me complaining about the pay, but the cost of it, where the cost is incurred, is only going to continue to grow because people to do that professionally, it costs money. In as much as if you're going to have something welded up that it's going to be a solid product, isn't going to fall apart out on the interstate, you're going to pay a professional
Mhm.
welder to put that together so that it works and it survives. It's the same when you're dealing with a professional workforce like that. That costs money. Aviation costs money. it
Right.
it costs a lot of money to keep aircraft in the sky and working when you need it, and so that the people operating that equipment don't die. So
So
to
that is
be
one
just that way.
that is one of the things. Oh, go ahead, Senator.
Well, I was just going to say, this reminds me of our healthcare system. We deal with shit after we get sick. We're dealing with the forest after they catch on fire.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be a little more proactive about this and maybe deal with climate change, whether you believe in it or not?
Right.
Forest fires are getting earlier, more intense, more frequency.
Well, I'm gonna say something. What my favorite pin that I got my meteorologist friend. Science doesn't give a fuck what you believe. That's what.
Mother Nature always bats last, and that's a fact. And
Well,
so,
here's
shouldn't we be doing stuff to help it so we have some sort of idea on how to whether that's control burns, whether that's harvesting timber in the right
Well, could I hijack this question and kind of combine it with one I had? So,
yeah, sure.
uh, we're inundated, right, with news headlines, and fire is kind of one of those things I pay close attention to because I reported on it for so long. I missed this headline. I totally missed this headline. So I'm going to put it up here, and um, this is from June. This headline, it says, as wildfires worsen, Trump administration revives discredited policy to stomp out all fires quickly. So after about 100 years of full suppression policies, meaning putting out every fire as fast as possible, the feds had this plan that I reported on a few years ago. We have this incredible fire science lab here in Missoula, Montana, and basically, that plan was to reverse this policy that went on for a century and work on controlled burns to better manage our forests and to let some of these good fires burn because it is part of our natural cyclical process on Earth. And in June, the Trump administration revived that full suppression strategy, and so, to untangle this for our listeners, I'd love to talk about this because it's what's known as a fire paradox. That the more you try to make fire disappear, the more we're going to see fuels build up, and the harder it is to control these insane, out of control fires with the hot shots or other crews. So, can we untangle that a little bit, Borg? Just like the policy and what full suppression means as far as keeping our crews safe and our community safe?
Yeah, so it is a paradox. That I see why that full suppression, go after all of them is there, because frankly, the people are just tired of it. And part of that is there's been just so many times that a fire was trying to be managed or whether fire was trying to be used like in prescribed burning or whatever, and then it got away and something bad
Mhm.
happened. There's just
Totally.
Yeah, right. There's just little appetite for it. And anytime you're putting a lot of fire on the ground with good intentions, there's always a risk that it doesn't go well. And this kind of gets back to what I wish in our country there was more appetite for living with fire instead of just viewing fire as the enemy. Just understanding that it is part of our world and our landscape, and that every human living anywhere near that has a responsibility to make sure that they've done their due diligence and fire
Yes.
hardened their home. But the truth is that's not the case. That's actually anomalous that has happened. So people just don't have an appetite for that side of it, be it smoke, be it the potential for escape. Uh, that people just don't want it. So I mean, like it or not, we're obligated as servants of the taxpayer to do what the taxpayers want. I think that has more to do with the full suppression side of it, like go after every fire than anything.
Well, and don't get me wrong here, like, there are people in the chat, like, we're not going to say, "Oh, this is on fire and it's gonna threaten this entire neighborhood, let it burn." But the idea is that some places where there's not critical infrastructure threatened,
Well,
that Sorry, go ahead.
so I was going to go there next, which is
Yeah.
okay. So then, all right, so we're going to suppress every fire. Well, we're at a slow year. Yeah, we would, and I say slow year where there's some years where there's just way less activity. I mean, we're getting constant rain in a region, whatever. Yeah, we're going to go on. But a year like this, so even though there's a mandate to suppress every fire, we only have so many aircraft. We only have so many firefighters. So then you have to prioritize, and the high value, high demand, high impact fires like what you just saw in Spokane. Like when that started, there was immediate diversion of resources from all the fires that are going on in the area. Like those fires shoot right to the highest priority. So some little sort of inconsequential fire out in the middle of nowhere that was being looked at to take full suppression on that, those go right to the bottom of the list, and everything vectors to that new highest priority. And those priorities are set for sure daily, if not hourly, daily. At like a national office, we call that NMAC, but there's, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, think tanks that are constantly receiving real time intelligence and forecasting to predict that and make those decisions and communicate that. The system, in my opinion, actually works really well considering the size of the organization and considering the amount of resources and, I'll say assets that we work with to vector that stuff. I mean, the response to Spokane, to be clear, I wasn't there, but I'm still very tied to the ground and what's going on with that kind of stuff. And everything that was available within a reasonable response time was vectored that way to help that situation. So, you
The
know,
question though becomes, what happens if, they're in Spokane? I mean, I think there are, more than 1,000 people there. What happens if another terrible fire breaks out today somewhere? I mean, there's only so many resources.
that's right. Um, Again, it'll just come down to prioritization and things will get moved. Yeah. If it were another conflagration like that, that fire would then still be it's triage, right? So you go from triaging, it doesn't matter what you're triaging, you're always going to there's always going to be things that it may
Mhm,
supersede what is important in that moment or not.
mhm.
And that is the best. That is the best, and that is always the best we can do is as humans dealing with environmental catastrophes. Like you just got to look at what it is in front of you, because you can't that stuff's hard to predict. Like you can't predict some wingnut going out deciding they want to throw the match to some grass
Right.
on the south side of town when the wind's blowing to the north. Like you can't predict that, so you respond to it.
So, you talked about how the fire season really gets to cooking in the fall when the wind comes up, which is true, by the way. Wind becomes much more of a factor. It's Mother Nature. So, if you were going to give advice to somebody who lives in an area of grassland or an area of timber, right now, and the fire's 400 or 500 miles away from you, so you feel pretty safe, what would you tell them they should be doing?
Make sure that around your place, you don't have specific to your house and your buildings. Okay. Make sure that immediately adjacent to your place, you don't have things that will
And
set.
what's your definition of immediately adjacent? Is it 1,000? Is it 1,000 feet? Is it a quarter of a mile?
Or
It really depends. Okay. So if you're living just in lands, really, Worst case, you're going to be dealing with, I don't know, upwards of 10-foot flame heights. So make sure that there's nothing. If a fire front were to come sweeping in through the grasses, you need to have that knocked back. And when I say knock back, if you have the capacity to have just irrigated, like a lawn that's, put water in your lawn, if it's green, it's generally not going to burn. Um, I say generally because depending on how hot it is, can dry it out. But I mean, a nice big irrigated yard is a good thing, or rock, or just barren earth, right? But what eats houses up are like the ornamental shrubs that people plant,
Mhm.
the pretty little junipers and all that stuff. That when those things get dry, even if you're irrigating them, but they tend to get like their little limbs and stuff, needles dry out
Yep.
and fall in the
Yep.
pile. And when they burn, man, they torch off quick.
Yep.
Because those that kind of vegetation is incredibly responsive to what we call low RHs, right? So just the humidity in the air, when you start dealing with single digit relative humidities and then add wind, that stuff will torch off in a heartbeat.
Yep.
It
I,
happens to be under your eave. There goes your house.
I've got to tell you, irrigated green grass doesn't burn, but I can tell you for a fact I was baling with a Ralph baler last year,
Yeah.
and we dropped a bearing in it, and it dropped in green grass,
Yeah.
and that shit burned just like it was cheatgrass.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
burnt-
Yeah.
but it's not irrigated. It was green, but it was powder dry,
Yeah.
and it was the middle of July. I mean, it was the way it is. But we had a hell
Well,
of a wow.
that's why I kind of hesitated with what I was saying there. I mean, and
Yeah.
it is a fire barrier. It will burn, but just not nearly with the intensity that the
Right.
browns.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Yeah, that's
And I don't wanna get you in too much trouble, Borg, but I do wanna ask you about this because, like we talked about a little bit, another layer to all of this. Someone said to me, I think it was Mark Finney, who's the, scientist out here at the fire lab. He's like, "Everybody will be impacted, like, by these fire seasons, and if it's not, like, a fire immediately near you, it's going to be the smoke." Right? And so places historically that haven't dealt with the smoke, they comes in, it's like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible." And for people out west, we go, well, yeah, we have to deal with this all the time. But there's kind of a new political side to all of this because we have the president threatening Canada over its smoke, its fires, sending smoke into the US. And he was just asked about this. I think it was yesterday, or the day before. I just want to play this.
Hopes. I have, yeah. So you'll find out about it.
That didn't work out very well. Let me try again. Okay, no. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna get it done. But he said he's guys, it's hard.
You used to work for Scripps. I was just fine.
I did. Here we go. How about okay, one more time.
I have, yeah. So you'll find out about it.
Okay, so she asked, did you decide a punishment for Canada for the wildfire smoke? He said, I have, and you'll find out about it. Do you have any thoughts on that, Borg? I mean, anything that Canada could do about not letting smoke come over into our our country?
Got to build a wall. We got to build a wall.
Build a wall.
Anyway, sorry, Borg. Go ahead.
Yeah. What was your question? Do I think there's anything you could do?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you hear somebody talking about punishing Canada for the wildfire smoke coming into the US, when we have so many fires pumping out smoke, in our own country, like what are your thoughts on that?
No.
That there's a Mike Mansfield answer right there.
That is a Mike Mansfield, yeah.
Really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That any more than you're gonna stop a hurricane from spooling up off anybody's border and then blame the other country for starting the hurricane. Look, man, like I just got done working on a fire that was just north of Bonners Ferry, and our smoke was going into Canada. And we spent a fair amount of time on the phone coordinating things with Canadian Fire Management. And regardless of what is said out of presidential offices, the reality on the ground is the working relationship is quite professional and understood that all those kind of conversations are basically just silly. Okay. And his, at least my opinion, our current administration says a lot of things. I think a lot of those things are just for effect. They're not in reality the when it hits the ground, how it goes. So um, I guess that's a long way of saying, no, we're not going to stop it. No, there's nothing that's going to be done about it because that's just silly. And when summers happen in the current year, 2026, there's going to be smoke in the air, regardless of where the smoke comes from. The smoke could come in from Greece. Okay. You get enough
Yeah.
fire. Yeah. Well, I mean, like it is just how it is. And I guess my suggestion would be just ignore that because it doesn't really mean anything. It's just more theater.
Bluster. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Lastly, I wanted to ask. Go ahead, Senator.
I would just say this, not on the thing of fires. I think anytime you threaten an ally like Canada over and over and over again, making it the 51st state, we're going to sue you for the smoke, or we're going to put tariffs on you for the smoke. I don't think it does any good for the relationship at all. And that's my opinion, and I don't expect you to comment on that. I think it does negative things for the strength and the power and the support for the United
It
States.
doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help.
That's right.
Yeah. And how many times have I been on a fire where I see Canadian crews down here helping us,
Many times, and vice versa. I've
and
been
vice versa?
several times,
Yeah.
and it was a hoot. It was great.
Okay, so my last question is, we see a lot of conspiracy theories around these fires. I'm already seeing them. Part of it, like, I saw one yesterday about, something you talked about, like, how the fire will burn and all of a sudden one house is okay and everything around it, and it burns in, like, a mosaic pattern. Like, tell me about what goes through your mind when you hear these, conspiracy theories around these fires and making them so hyper political when they just are affecting all of us.
I think people are always looking for the villain. They're when especially when crappy things happen, even if even if you're not directly affected and you're looking for the opportunity to weigh in because in modern society you have that capacity to do immediately through social media. But I think people are always looking for something to blame, someone to blame, and that just the crappy things happen. Like again, I'll say it. A lot of it has to do with what we think of fighting wildland fires, and no one would ever suggest you're going to fight an earthquake.
Yeah.
No one would ever suggest you're going to fight a hurricane, but yet we have this in our head that we can fight these. But and to some degree we can, but it has to be on our terms. The whole notion of anchor, flank, and pinch, and like the way you go about fighting those, but even with aircraft, even with the most advanced technology we have at our fingertips these days, when they get cranking, when these fires get cranking, like the one that just went through through Spokane, you do the best you can, but really you have to just get out of the way. And so when those things happen, I think people are looking for something or someone to blame, and that's a very human response to things, especially when you have trauma. But the reality is it just happens, right? It just happens. And, you know, I don't really know if I'm answering your question.
No, I just think it's like, for me, it's just wild.
Yeah,
We're
I
in this
think,
age to
yeah,
see,
yeah.
like, so much reaction
Okay,
and
here's the example,
blame.
right? Yeah, I see this one a lot. Okay, people will look at some footage aerially, and they'll start touting that it was some form. The government was using directed energy
Lasers.
weapons, lasers, from space to, because why aren't the trees burned? I mean, the house is burned and nuked. The car next to it is burned and in rubble, but the trees are not. Well, that I can tell you, man. I just got done saying I've been on fires 3,000 operational shifts. Very few humans have been on more than that, okay? I've never seen a blue beam from space. I've been in those situations. I literally have been in those streets when that stuff was ripping by, and I have never seen that. That's just not what's happening. What's happening is what I just described earlier in the show. It's one house is going to the next house and then going to the next house. And if some of the trees, yes, will burn, but specifically, like we'll use ponderosa pine as an example. What you got to have what are called ladder fuels to get, generally speaking, to get the crown to
Up
burn.
to the top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you're looking down at a picture, looking down, you're not going to see the composition of that tree below the crown because you can't see it. But if you were looking at it from the bottom, you're looking up and the crown of the tree doesn't start till 30, 40, 50 feet up. Well, if the flame front that was right there on the ground was only 5 feet high because it was just needles, then it's not gonna
Right.
reach that crown. And if the wind's blowing a certain direction, yes, the house could be ripped off and the tree may be 10, 15, 20 feet away, but if all the heat from that house was blowing away from that crown, then it's gonna stay standing. So it's just when people see that, it's a lack of understanding or
So you're saying that,
maybe
like, science
interpretation.
science and logic play
Yeah,
into this?
yeah, and experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, I think for the most part, when I see that, it's people that are just looking for the villain, and antitrust, and I think that's what bums me out most about our world right now is, just the lack of trust that at least me, the last many years being a hotshot superintendent, I tried very hard to, like, just ignore that because in the end, we gotta do our job, stay focused, not let that stuff trickle down to the ground, not let it interfere or cloud the judgment and decision making and situational awareness of our firefighters and just do the job.
I think that's a good note to end on. Senator, anything you wanna finish with here?
Well, I just want to say we appreciate your commitment to the forest in this country as a wildland firefighter, and appreciate you being on our show today. We thank you very much. I think you offered some good suggestions on where we need to go, and I think I'm going to put your name in for the head of the Forest Service so that you can implement some of these policies.
Uh, respectfully, I already served.
I decline because
I
I'm done.
no, I'm not done. I have enough time in my life to maybe reinvent myself as something else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I will say too, thank you not just for the forest, but I know that Borg's teams have saved many towns from completely going up in flames and worked throughout the night to hold back this incredible force of nature that's fire on our landscape. So thank you so much, Borg. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for navigating these waters with us.
I appreciate the kudos there. It's funny because you're right. There's so much that has happened over the years, and not just with me, but like all of my counterparts in fire. We tend to like focus on the ones that didn't go right, but I can for sure tell you that unannounced and undaylighted, there have been a lot of operations that prevented whole towns and communities from burning down that people don't even know about. So
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Borg. All right. Have a good day. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about fire all day. I know I saw you look at the clock. Now you've got a desk to fix. You got to get out on the combine.
I wasn't looking at the clock. I was looking at the calendar. I got to change it from July to August.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I do want to just say, as I say this, I'm going to put this image up. This is before and after images taken by Near Map of Spokane of these neighborhoods and these communities that were burned, and you can kind of just see just overnight devastation. And this community is going to need a lot of love and support and help as they start to recover, as we saw in Altadena in California, we saw in Lahaina in Hawaii, as we saw in Louisville, Colorado. I could go on and on. I mean, again, this is the latest. and this won't be the last, and we need to pay attention, and we need to do better with our understanding of wildland fire, how it spreads, how quickly it spreads, and that nobody is really immune to this. So I will post some links into the article for how you can help. There are ways to help right now, the people of Spokane. And again, as Borg mentioned, it's August 4th. This is the very beginning of, I think he called it Dirty August. And so we are up against a really rough fire season still very much ahead of us.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Look, the whole time that I was in the Senate, we had a debate about Forest Service budget and how much was spent on forest fighting versus forest management. And the truth is we could do a better job of managing, but it takes resources to do that, and it also takes laws on the books to make sure the environment is taken care of, but not so unreasonable that it obstructs forest management. And so it's an interesting time. I was going to talk about forest ag with him, but I didn't want to put him on the spot. The forest ag is an online firefighter, and I visited with him a month ago today, as a matter of fact, a week ago today, and he was talking about the fact that he really misses not being out there fighting fires and campaigning instead, which I understand that 100%. I had those.
Oh, forest ag?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said forest ag, like agriculture. And I was like, oh, but
Well,
Borg,
that's a nice twist.
Borg and Sam know each other. I asked Sam when we saw him if he knew Borg. He said, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I happened to be allowed to go on a fire with Borg's crew in Lolo when the Lolo Peak fire blew up. That was actually the first time I met him. He took me to this fire. I mean, it was like, if they're allowing me up there, it was a pretty mild day, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I mean, the just as he put it that day, I'll never forget. He said, "Everything out here is trying to kill you," and it's true. And you have these trees on fire that they fall down, and they're called snags, and you don't know where they're going to fall or which direction they're going to fall. It's really, really dangerous stuff. And so you're out there doing that with this crew. You become very close to one another. You look out for one another. They become family. And so yeah, when we saw Sam and Forstag, I did ask him about that because, Borg was a smoke jumper at one point. I mean, sorry, Borg, but he's a little bit older than Sam. When I found out how old Sam was, I was like, what? He's young, but yeah, those crews, they cross paths.
Amen. That's good.
What did you want to ask him about Sam Forstag?
No, I was just going to ask if you knew him, and I mean, it's obviously a job that once it gets in your blood, it's hard to get it out. And it's something that he loved, and
Yep.
and that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
This guy from Australia, this Aussie, Tony Wilson, I think he's from Australia, asked me how Trump cutting the money for forest management and then putting $90 billion into Iran makes sense. I cannot explain stupidity. I'll just tell you that. There was a reason no president went into Iran for 47 years, and I think Trump's finally figured that out. It's a fucking it's a quagmire. And he has done nothing but make Iran strong. Give me back the JCPOA. It was a much better deal than they're negotiating right now. I'll just tell you that.
Well, I do wonder about it being America first to not put that money into our forest management.
It's America first unless it helps the Trump machine. So that's the way it is.
Okay, we cannot let this end without saying something. Do you know what I'm going to get at?
No, but I'm gonna right now. You're gonna go. What is it?
It's Charla Tester's birthday today, and we need to say happy, happy, happy birthday to Charla Tester, the woman who keeps it all together for this guy.
He turns 39 today. It's amazing.
39?
Not Penny's age. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I hope that you do something very nice for Charlotte today, and she has a great birthday. And we have on Friday joining us Sky Perryman, who is a lawyer, nonprofit exec. She is the CEO of Democracy Forward. She has a new book coming out. We're going to talk to her about that, but we're also going to talk to her about these new efforts. She and some others have teamed up to basically try to start the other version of Turning Point USA and kind of get really, young people engaged in politics and government, to kind of be an antidote to Turning Point USA. So we're going to talk to her about all of that. Anything else? Anything else,
I
Senator?
think that's good. I mean, we were just talking about Forstag. I mean, one of the reasons Forstag won is young people were fired up, and if you take a look at the policies that's coming out of the Republican Party right now, the MAGA Republican Party, these are not policies that bode well for young people. I'll just tell you that. And Democrats may not be perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better. And we've got some great candidates running, some great independent candidates running too, I might add, that can help move that ball forward for young people in this country. So, Skylin Perryman getting young folks fired up is a positive thing.
All right. We are going to talk about it Friday.
Yeah, that's good.
You're going to
Well,
be on the combine, probably.
I hope so. That's the goal. We got done with the peas, and we're going to be cutting spring wheat. I don't have any winter wheat, so winter wheat's being cut, and peas are being cut like crazy, which is good. But it's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that's all we have. Oh, yeah, the hat. Gotta talk about the hat. I like this hat. I'm a big fan of this hat.
Yeah, it's a cool hat. I just pulled it out of the bag, and I'll be damned, I didn't even know I had it. So,
Well, tell us what it is for people who
well,
can't
that's the
see it.
Rachel. Oh, I think it's a show on it, actually. Yeah, it does. It's a Rachel Maddow show, and it's a hat. I gave one of these to a friend of my brother's in Idaho, who's an attorney who's moderately crazy, which is good. A lot of crazy attorneys, and but I didn't think I had another one, but yeah, so it's good. Yeah,
Well, do you have another one so I can have it?
it's hard to say when I dig through the bag, so I might find another one.
Oh boy.
Uh,
Jason's son also turns 28 this month. Hey, you know what else is happening this month? We have another birthday happening this month. Do you want to talk about that one?
yeah, Johannes Grossen, kid I graduated from high school with. The 29th,
Stop.
29th and 30th of August is, it's his birthday. Yeah.
It sounds like your birthday this month.
Is my birthday this month?
Yeah, kind of a big one.
No, I quit having birthdays a few years back. They're overrated, and it tends to classify people as being old. So, not that
Yeah.
you would ever do that. Not that you would ever.
I would never do that. No. Hey, I couldn't do half the stuff you do. I've been telling everybody since I went to the farm, I do not know how John Tester worked that farm and served in the United States then
Oh,
at
you
18
don't
years.
know? Just like I organize all sorts of stuff in the political world, I never farmed. I never did. That's a fallacy. Yeah,
That's right. You
but
you have a lot of conspiracy theories
on,
around you,
on,
my friend.
on both fucking idiots. That's all I'm going to say. So good.
Okay. Hey, thanks to everybody for joining us here today, both live and for people who tune in later. We want to thank our guest, Shawn Borgen, retired superintendent from the Flathead Hotshots, for just talking about where we're at this fire season and just in general with fire in this moment. And we want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank all of you for joining us. You can find us on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. And we will chat again soon.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Michigan primary day today. This is a big thing.
Oh, shit. Take it away.
No, I'm not going to take it away. It's a big day. This is a big primary. As the lady from Cook Report said a couple of weeks ago on this very show, who wins that primary may determine the majority in the Senate, quite frankly. So no pressure, Michigan, but do the right thing.
And also, we saw, yes, Tony from Australia, our friend Tony, who always tunes in from Australia. I did not clip this, and I really should have. But there was quite an interview with Dana Bash and RFK Jr. on CNN this weekend, and oh my gosh, that thing was explosive. Maybe I'll clip it.
Well, you should clip it for the next show on Friday, and we'll play it for the Friday. Because
It'll be late.
quite honestly, anybody that takes their grandkids in a sewage river and goes swimming and claims it's good, and with measles outbreak going the way it is, um, this guy is not fit to be the Department of Health. But you know what? He didn't like COVID and he didn't like the vaccine, so he's fine in the eyes of the MAGA folks.
Baja.
The truth is that if you want to go back to my grandfather's time, where we didn't have vaccines and we didn't know what the hell was going on, that's fine. But as we talked about forest fires, I happen to be living right now, so we got to deal with the problems we have right now. And if you want to deny science and go down that road, especially if you're a scientist, by the way, it makes it equally my ability to understand totally goes out the window if you're a scientist and you believe in all
Yeah.
this shit. But it's
Well, there
weird.
was this moment where he said, "I get it." He calls her Dana too. I can't say when people call her Dana. Her name's Dana, and he said, "I understand, Dana. I mean, you probably don't get this because you're not a scientist." And she said, "Well, neither are you."
Well, no shit. That ain't the understatement here. I don't know what is. But the
It's pretty
truth
good.
is that all this stuff is just entirely ridiculous. If you want to go stand in front of a train and say, "Well, it'll stop because I'm not meant to die," go ahead and give that a shot. Uh, it's the same thing. If you don't want to follow science, go ahead and not follow science. The truth is that the RFK, Hegseth, Blanche, all these people, they're unfit to be in public service. And I mean that seriously. These folks are unfit to be in the positions that they're nominated for or are in currently. And yet this president, who tries to hire people stupider than he is to put it around to make himself look smart, continues to put people in our government that add to the swamp, that make the swamp swampier. And then claim on the other hand, "Oh, I'm cleaning up Washington, D.C." No, you're not. You're just in the country.
All right. Well, what a good note to end on. Everybody, go out there, have a good Tuesday, have a good week. We'll talk to you on Friday. Thanks for taking some time with us, Senator. I hope you have a productive day out there on the combine.
Tally ho.
Happy birthday, Charla.